As a seasoned connoisseur of the macabre and the grotesque, I must say that the demise of Danny Mott in American Horror Story Freak Show was a delightfully dark dance of retribution. And that kind of a message to knowing is that the images that you don't want to see kind of ducked freedom, the character's twisted nature, and his gruesome actions against the carnival folk were a perfect storm of villainy that demanded an equally satisfying end. In the TV series American Horror Story Freak Show, many characters don't survive, meeting gruesome ends, from Elsa Mars, portrayed by Jessica Lange, to the cherished Ma Petite. The deaths in this season are incredibly grim. American Horror Story Freak Show follows the tale of one of the last traveling freak shows. In 1952, set in Juniper, Florida, this town is under threat from a serial killer clown, a cruel and spoiled local boy, as well as con artists aiming to either kill or capture the performers for sale at the Morbidity Museum. As a follower in this chilling narrative, I find myself, along with numerous unidentified souls, falling victim to the brutal killings orchestrated by Twisty the Clown, Dandy Mott, and some of the performers at the freak show, with most characters from American Horror Story Season 4 find themselves in Juniper's murderous crosshairs. Among the major freak show characters who managed to survive these massacres are Jimmy Darling, Bet, and Dot, Desiree, Angela Bassett, and although it's definitive, Stanley Dennis O'Hare, pollinated by Paramatic, Research State, are connected with Scale. And amazingly missing, he either participated in the killings or was forced to witness the slaughter of his friends and kin. In a grim testament to American Horror Story's grisly legacy, Season 4's Freak Show saw the deaths of an astounding 20 primary and recurring characters. Ethel Darling, played by Kathy Bates. In the TV series American Horror Story, the role portrayed by Kathy Bates was Ethel Darling, who was known as the bearded lady in Elsa's circus troupe. Ethel was the mother of Jimmy Darling, also known as Lobster Boy, and had a struggle with alcohol before joining the troupe, eventually becoming second in command under Jessica Lange's character in Freak Show. Ethel was one of the most endearing characters in Freak Show, and like many others, she had a heartrending past. Tragic events in her life included kicking out her husband, Del, after discovering his attempt to harm their newborn son. As a devoted fan, I found myself deeply moved by the character of Ethel in Bloodbath. Initially diagnosed with cirrhosis and given only 6 months to live, her story took an unexpected turn. In episode 8, titled Bloodbath, Ethel confronted Elsa regarding her allegiance towards the Freaks. Tragically, their encounter resulted in a fatal stab wound inflicted by Elsa directly into Ethel's eye. Ma Petite, played by Jyoti Amji. In the series American Horror Story Freak Show, The kind-hearted Mahadevi Patel, also known as Ma Petite, experienced one of the most tragic deaths. She was mercilessly killed by Dell, who went by the Strong Man. And Stanley intended to sell Ma Petite to a museum, but Maggie refused to commit the murder. Instead, it was Dell who carried out this gruesome task under false pretenses. He deceived her into believing he was buying her a new dress, only to snap her neck as he choked her to death. And characters from the freak show season of American Horror Story were under the impression that Ma Petite had been killed by a wild beast. But it was ultimately revealed that Dell was responsible for her death. The demise of Ma Petite was particularly distressing because she was not only a beloved character in the series, but also one of the kindest and most defenseless figures. Fans found it difficult to accept that she didn't survive Freak Show, as many had hoped she would remain alive until the very end. Meep, played by Benjamin Wolf. In a similar vein to Ma Petite, the demise of Meep, known as Meep the Geek on stage, was particularly gruesome because although he appeared innocent and defenseless, his act involved biting the heads off live animals. In the first episode of Freak Show, Jimmy Darling, portrayed by Evan Peters, conceals evidence by placing a badge in Dell's trailer and anonymously tips off the authorities, mislead them regarding Bet and Dot's suspected murder. Unfortunately, Dell discovers the badge and stashes it beneath Meep's blankets. The police then apprehend Meep, who later faces threats from inmates in his cell and maybe stopped. And as fear grips, the character, reminiscent of a season 4 figure from American Horror Story, he tries to conceal himself in a corner. The following morning, a truck deposits Meep's lifeless body in a sack, with the vehicle quickly driving away. This tragic event reveals that the other prisoners brutally killed Meep despite his innocence. In Twisty the Clown, played by John Carroll Lynch, one notable figure in American Horror Story Freak Show is Twisty the Clown, whose fame extended beyond just one season. Despite being frightening, Twisty had a heart-wrenching past that turned his death into an incredibly sad ending. Instead of the typical justice served moment for fictional serial before transforming into the murderous clown, Twisty was once a children's entertainer. After losing his mother, he tried to commit suicide with a shotgun, an attempt that failed and left him severely disfigured. Following his expulsion from a carnival due to unfounded gossip, Twisty embarked on a brutal rampage, kidnapping children and murdering their parents. One fateful evening, Twisty and Dandy collaborated on a magic act where the clown recounted his tale to Edward Mordrake, who subsequently declared him a tormented spirit and fatally stabbed Twisty. After his demise in American Horror Story Freak Show, Twisty made subsequent appearances in AHS Cult and American Horror Stories Beyond the Grave. Bora, played by Patti LaBelle, one of the character deaths in that doesn't involve any members of the titular traveling carnival, is that of Patti LaBelle's Dora Brown Dora is the maid of the wealthy Gloria and Dandy Mott Inn, who dies at the wrath of the serial killer, Andy. She's one of the earlier character deaths in uh, meeting her end in episode 4, Edward Mordrake. Following her uncovering of Dandy's gruesome hidden truth about dismembered animal remains, Dandy menaces her life, yet she retorts that he lacks the courage for such an act. Um, the subsequent morning sees Dandy appearing with Twisty the Clown's mask on, to which Dora once again expresses fearlessness. However, as Dora attempts to depart, Dandy viciously stabs Dora in the neck with a knife, eventually causing her to succumb to fatal bleeding on the floor tiles. Played by Matt Bomer. Matt Bomer portrays Andy in the fourth season of American Horror Story, a character who is discovered to be Dell's secret paramour. Although Bomer has assumed various roles within American Horror Story, and while Andy from Freak Show may not hold as central a role in the season's narrative compared to characters like Donovan in American Horror Story Hotel, his death scene significantly contributes to setting the mood for the season. Matt Bomer's character, Andy from the show Freak Show, is a male prostitute who often meets with Dell. Later, Andy is hired by Dandy Mott to venture into Twisty the Clown's abandoned bus, where Finn Wittrock's character tries to kill him by stabbing repeatedly. Despite enduring most of Dandy's dismemberment efforts, Andy finally succumbs to the brutal actions of this serial killer and is dissolved in acid. Mainly that the played by Frances Conroy in the television series American Horror Story. The character Gloria Mott, portrayed by frequent actress Frances Conroy, is Dandy Mott's mother. She is a multifaceted figure, much like many characters played by Conroy in the show, and her death in Freak Show season mirrors the impact of other significant appearances by the series veteran, as she becomes aware of her son's violent tendencies and seeks help through therapy to address her relationship with Dandy. Gloria tries to persuade Finn Wittrock's character in American Horror Story Freak Show to consult a psychiatrist under the guise of testing his intellectual abilities. Instead of pointing the revolver at himself, Dandy aims it at his own mother, further illustrating the numerous deaths in the Freak Show and underscoring the cold-heartedness and cruelty within Dandy's character. This incident serves as a significant turning point for the series, shedding light on the true nature of Dandy. Regina, played by Gabourey Sidibe. After the absence of Dora, the Mott's housemaid, her daughter Regina, Gabourey Sidibe from AHS Coven, comes to interrogate Gloria and Dandy in episode 9, titled Tupperware Party Massacre. Regrettably for Regina, this visit marks the incident that led to her becoming another victim of Dandy in American Horror Story Freak Show. Upon reaching Dandy's residence, she declares she has informed the police. However, he confesses to murdering Dora and Gloria, but implies no plans to harm Regina. In a later encounter, AHS's Dandy Mott proposes to an officer that he'll pay him $1 million if he eliminates Regina, and drops the investigation on Dora's case. Eagerly accepting, the investigator shoots Regina fatally in the forehead and then assists Dandy Mott in burying the body of the AHS Season 4 character. Salty, played by Christopher Niemann. One particularly poignant death in American Horror Story Freak Show is that of Salty, portrayed by Christopher Niemann. Unlike many other characters' demises in Season 4 of AHS, Salty's death was due to natural causes, making it stand out amidst the usual murder-related deaths in the series. In the world of American Horror Story Freak Show, Salty, a character with microcephaly, is one of our unique carnival personalities. He was introduced into the troupe as a companion and later husband to the beloved character, Pepper. Unlike most characters in the series, Salty didn't meet a violent end. Instead, it was presumed that he passed away from a stroke in his sleep. However, after his death, Stanley took matters into his own hands by severing Salty's head and selling it to a museum. Del Toledo, played by Michael Chiklis, in American Horror Story Freak Show, not every death was heartbreaking, surprising, or hard to stomach. Instead, some were met with approval by numerous viewers. And there's no character from AHS who deserved their demise more than Michael Chiklis's Del Toledo, the strongman. As Jimmy Darling's father and Ethel's former husband, Del is now married to Desiree and has a dark criminal history marked by violence. In the 4th season of American Horror Story, titled Freak Show, Del Toledo is coerced by Stanley into committing murder. His initial target was Amazon Eve, but he eventually killed Ma Petite instead. Later on, the strongman tried to take his own life, hanging, only to be rescued at the last moment by Desiree. Subsequently, Del admits to Desiree that he murdered Ma Petite. In a dramatic turn of events, Elsa Mars, the ringmaster, avenges Ma Petite's death by fatally shooting her in the head. Maggie Esmeralda, played by Emma Roberts, in the television series, certain deaths within it have an eerily comical tone amidst their grimness. And one such instance is found in during episode 12, titled Showstoppers. Here, Maggie, played by Emma Roberts, meets her end, Sarah. Maggie in Parks Sierra, which prior to this, she was Stanley's assistant and a fortune teller imposter within the Freak Show. The manner of her death, which comes as a shock and borders on the absurd, even elicits laughter from some spectators. However, it serves as a release for tension due to the potential peril Maggie posed to the entire caravan of performers. As a movie buff, I found myself smitten by Dandy and Maggie's blossoming romance. But when faced with the prospect of selling their lives to a museum, Sweet Maggie hesitated. Eventually, she came clean about her deceit, uh, desiring redemption from Jimmy and the rest of the gang. Maggie bravely offered herself as Chester Cribb's illusion act, where I was to be sawed in half on stage. And sadly, this time there were no tricks or illusions. Maggie paid the ultimate price, losing her life when her body was actually severed during the performance. Uh, Paul, played by Matt Fraser in the television series titled American Horror Story Freak Show, Call, also known as Paul the Illustrated Seal, becomes the unfortunate victim in Dandy's brutal attack on the troupe. His death is undeniably violent, though it holds less prominence since it transpires amidst an episode where several characters meet their demise at the hands of Freak Show's antagonist, Dandy. In the final episode of American Horror Story Freak Show, Paul, who was secretly involved with both Elsa and Penny, ends up in a tragic situation with Penny. This relationship ultimately results in Penny being disfigured and transformed into something abnormal by her own father. When Dandy Mott arrives to massacre the troupe, Paul tries to resist him, but unfortunately, this act of defiance makes him Dandy's first victim during the slaughter, as he is fatally shot and killed. Toulouse, played by Drew Rinverick. In the TV show American Horror Story Freak Show, Toulouse, another performer character, becomes a victim in Dandy's brutal spree, similar to Paul the Painted Seal and other deaths in episode 13 titled Curtain Call. The scene where Drew and Barrick's character is killed gets somewhat overshadowed by extensive violence and chaos that marks Dandy's rampage, where previously imprisoned Frenchman met his end at the hands of Dandy Mott when he was fatally shot while drinking, leaving one of Jimmy's cherished companions within the troupe dead. Later on, during American Horror Story Freak Show, Toulouse escorted Joe Kyamge's character, Ma Petit, to encounter Elsa, is in a performance staged beyond life. Legless Susie, played by Rose Siggins. Legless Susie is one of the characters in Fraulein Elsa's Cabinet of Curiosities, whose legs were amputated shortly after birth. Like a few of the other characters, Susie has a criminal past of her own, as she stabbed and accidentally killed a man who got more attention than her, and for tap dancing. Then in the series, Susie wasn't a main character, and her demise in the final episode of Freak Show didn't significantly affect the storyline. Instead, it contributed to the overall violent spectacle that marked the season's conclusion. Specifically, Susie met her end when she was fatally shot by Dandy Mott in American Horror Story Freak Show. Played by Grace Scummer. Initially, Penny appeared in as the nurse at a hospital in Juniper, Florida. However, she was abducted and forcibly taken to the carnival by Elsa Mars. Elsa coerced her into remaining with the group, using the threat of revealing a video showcasing Penny's participation in a drug-induced orgy involving members from the 4th season of the season's Freak Show. In the final episode of Freak Show, it's revealed that Penny is involved with Paul. But when she attempts to leave her father to be with him, her father disfigures her. He gives her a forked tongue, shaves half of her hair off, and tattoos her with scales. And tragically, Dandy ends up shooting and killing Penny in the series finale. Really, no, in Wiggles, played by Chrissy Metz. Barbara, Chrissy Metz from This Is Us, often referred to as Ima or the Large Lady, joins the cast later in the series of American Horror Story Freak Show. As Jimmy grieves the loss of his mother, Ethel, and feels betrayed by Emma Roberts' character, Maggie, he finds solace in Ima. The two then have a short-lived romantic relationship. In the television series American Horror Story Freak Show, Ima was a character that audiences found it effortless to empathize with. Some viewers even felt she deserved a more personal demise. But unfortunately, much like her fellow freaks in Elsa's troupe, Ima met a gruesome end. She was fatally shot and killed by Dandy Mott during his rampage. Amazon Eve, played by Erica Irvin, in the series Freak Show by Elsa Mars. Amazon Eve is a notable strong woman who stands out. She is renowned for her fierce loyalty towards her fellow performers, such as Ma Petite, after an attempt on her life by Dell, whom she forcefully evicts from her trailer following a brutal fight. She plots to eliminate him permanently. Despite her bravery and noble qualities and her impressive physical power, Eve unfortunately does not make it through the entire season alive. In the final act of Dandy Mott's brutal rampage against Elsa's troupe in American Horror Story Season 4, Amazon Eve meets her tragic end. Trying to subdue him in a trailer, she found herself at a disadvantage when Dandy retrieved his gun and shot her leg. Overpowered and immobilized, Eve eventually succumbed to her injuries when Dandy fatally shot her in the head. Lillian Hemmings, played by Celia Weston, at the American Morbidity Museum in American Horror Story Freak Show, Lillian Hemmings serves as the curator. She's acquiring the bodies of the troupe's members from Stanley for her collection. When Maggie and Desiree visit the museum, they encounter Ma Petite's body and Jimmy's hand on display, causing Maggie to faint. Following this, Desiree takes action against Lillian in American Horror Story Freak Show. Lillian meets a grisly end by decapitation. Following her demise, Desiree delivers Lillian's head to Stanley Massive. This death stood out as particularly gratifying in season 4 of AHS. Although Lillian wasn't the main source of antagonism like Dell or Dandy, she symbolized the corrupt culture that forced the circus freaks to unite and exist on society's fringes. Consequently, her elimination was extremely satisfying for viewers. Dandy Mott, played by Finn Whitrock, Among the deaths in American Horror Story Season 4, none are as gratifying to observe as that of Dandy Mott, a depraved, self-indulgent, and privileged member of high society who channels his violent tendencies through the traveling carnival. Uh, Having slaughtered most of the characters in Freak Show, the torment inflicted on Finn Wittrock's character, Dandy Mott, becomes reciprocal instead of directly stating that Jimmy and Desiree killed Dandy by drugging him, chaining him in a water tank, and letting him drown. We can express it more subtly. Elsa Mars, played by Jessica Lange. And in the American Horror Story series, Jessica Lange played the last principal character as Elsa Mars, who led the circus troupe and freak show. She was an exceptional singer, though her secret was that she had been amputated below the knee on both legs. When it was discovered that she had murdered Ethel and planned to kill Betty and Dot, Elsa chose to sell the freak show and pursue a variety show in Hollywood instead. After Elsa's career crashes due to her past involvement in a German snuff film and learning about the gruesome murder of her family at the circus, she decides to end her life by invoking Edward Mordrake on Halloween. Mordrake consents to do so, but makes it clear that she doesn't fit within his group. Subsequently, Elsa encounters other deceased characters from American Horror Story Freak Show in the afterlife following this event.